Hello. Welcome along to episode 258 of Adventures in Pop. My name is Simon Jacobs. You are extremely welcome. And there's only one thing on my mind, really, for this episode, which is to talk a little bit more about the Goldhawk Foxes' second album, which is coming out in just a few days. It comes out on Friday, the 17th of October. Can't wait. And with that comes the brand new single, Love of My Life. There has been a live at home version, or at least a little part of the song, a couple of episodes back, if you want to go back and check out a beautifully, authentically acoustic version. But with this episode comes the proper single version and a performance by CJ right here, giving it the full stuff to make that performance sit up and let everyone take notice. So it's an exciting moment. The second Goldhawk Foxes album is called Do Not Feed the Foxes, as you probably know by now. And it's taken up quite a lot of time in terms of working out what to do, particularly what to make for YouTube to promote the album as we've kind of got closer and closer to the release date. So not only do I want to thrill you, obviously, with the brand new and last single from this album, but I also want to just draw the curtain back a little bit behind the scenes and tell you some of the things that have been going on and some of the videos that I've put together, because this might be, if you're doing the same thing, this might be instructive in terms of, how to kind of make the most, I suppose, of releasing an album, particularly if, like me, you've gone through a process of releasing most of the singles already. So you get to the album. With the album comes a single, because the Spotify editorial board allows you to kind of nominate one track. Now, if you're releasing the whole album and you'd not released any singles up to that point, you'd still only be able to kind of put one track in front of the Spotify editorial board. So it kind of makes sense to people. It's made sense to me for quite some time to release quite a lot before you get to the album. Although with my own album, with the help of other people, I'm actually only releasing 4 or 5 singles before the album comes out. So there's been a little change very recently, but with this second Goldhawk Foxes album, Do Not Feed the Foxes, this Love of My Life, the new single that comes out with the album, is actually the 11th single to come with the album. So we have certainly, given it all that we can give it, put it like that. So before I just hand over to that last track and let you enjoy the 11th single from Do Not Feed the Foxes, it might be worth just me recapping videos that I've shown around this second album release, and a couple more that I've got in the can, which will be out soonish, to also kind of reinforce the second release. Because I think basically the more that you can turn into content and put out there on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or any other platform of your choice, the better. So the more times you've got an opportunity to kind of go back and talk more about the same thing, the better. So you will have noticed, those of you who are eagle-eyed and watching every episode, and I thank you. And by the way, if you're doing that and you haven't subscribed, somebody will probably come round and have a very stern talk to you in the week. Or just, better still, just subscribe. It's easy. Thank you. And so over the last couple of episodes, we've had Love of My Life live at home. So that was one. Then there were a couple of other performances of, about a minute and a half each, which actually is fine. I think that's kind of a good length, of a couple of other tracks that we recorded actually back in April, but I always kind of knew that they would be really handy for when we got to the album. So they were, I kept them knowing that this moment would come. So again, if you have a little look on YouTube, you'll see Say Less and Never Be Together, 2 other tracks from this album, floating around, which is, and they're interesting. They're CJ and myself on the guitar, doing a very rough and approximate accompaniment. And as I say, it's like half the song, just to give an idea, just to give an indication, to whet the appetite as to what lies on this album. So that's another couple of, just very quick, literally it's a minute and a half video, to pop out there and keep people, noticing and enjoying, I hope, and thinking about, let's hear a bit more about this album. And then the other video that I put out, in fact, the last episode of Adventures, was myself and CJ just sitting here having a chat about the album. Very quick, and I didn't want us to kind of trawl through every track and try and think of things, because that can be slightly painful sometimes. But rather than that, just to kind of pick out a few highlights and say, God, I remember doing this was good fun. And we talked specifically about Magic and Hate the Fact You're Loving It, two of the real, standout tracks on this album. So look, that's already out there and is really useful as a way of just, garnering interest, I suppose, in this second release. And then there are a couple more that are to come. And this is where I think it gets a bit more interesting. And I think it's worth doing. I mean, not everyone's going to do this, but hear me out. There are 12 tracks on the album. 11 of them get released as singles. So there's one poor left out track, which is an album track and is not a single, because there's not much point releasing it as a single. You've already released the album. It's already out there. And Spotify's editorial board isn't interested in it because you've made Love of My Life the single. So there is a last track. The last track is called Done With Being Done, and it's quite quirky, but I really like it. I think it's absolutely good enough to be on this album. So what do we do with it? Well, basically what I have done is made a video for it as if it were a single, and so sometime after the release of the album, I mean, only days I'm talking, not years, that'd be silly. Days after the release of the album, I can then, talk a bit more about it and put out this one extraneous track, Done With Being Done, with its own video. So it won't be a single, but it can be its own video on YouTube, for goodness sake. And we can all just try and be nice to it because, it's bad enough already. So that's another video, which is really worth it. And then once I've got 12 videos, I've done this before a couple of times, and yeah, you might think that's a step too far because, of course, all the 12 videos would already be out there individually on YouTube, and I'm saying they're all part of one group, so I've grouped them all under Goldhawk Foxes. So it's very simple to get a playlist of them. But what I like to do is to get the 12 videos, and basically stitch them all together in the order they appear on the album. So it becomes, if you like, the video album. It is the album in video. And it's quite interesting because obviously each of those videos gets made completely separately. And when I'm making a video, I'm not really thinking about the rest of the album. I'm just thinking, how am I going to visualize? How do we bring this song to life in a visual way? What is the imagery that's going to help people tune into this track? So it's quite an interesting thing when you get all of them together and you kind of look at them as one body of work, to be very pretentious. And I recommend it. It's good fun. I think it stands up. It makes you feel quite good. It's like you look back at that and think, well, we did accomplish something here. 12 songs, 12 videos, all of it pretty tight, and we're proud of each and every song, and otherwise it wouldn't go out on an album. We don't have to release everything. We're not Prince. It feels good to do that. So the last video that will appear, again in weeks rather than months or years, will be the whole video album of Do Not Feed the Foxes, the second Goldhawk Foxes album. So there's not much more to say. I'll just say, look, you will remember that the first album, We Are Goldhawk Foxes, which, again, I think we're both still really proud of, that came out just over 2 years ago. It has taken us 2 years to get the right 12 tracks together and, all the videos and all the bits and pieces in between. So it's not been amazingly fast, but I think, quality rather than quantity. Let's not worry about that. And actually, the thing that's interesting is that as I speak to you now, we do have certainly at least half an album in the can already for next time round. So we've got plenty to kind of move on to. And I think it's quite exciting because I think once again, as we go into album 3, the standard seems to have kind of stepped up again. And I think productions are probably getting a little bit clearer and smoother, and I'm very happy to say that. But also I think some of this is about CJ's songwriting, which just keeps evolving. And he's not here to get annoyed with me when I say it, but I think it just gets better and better. So it's really interesting to see how that goes. That's enough for today. I would just point you out to one thing. I've said a couple of times I'm releasing 3 albums this autumn, which is quite exciting. This is the first of those 3. Then there will be an album from me solo, and then the first album from Rothman and Jacobs coming out, both of those towards the end of November. So plenty more to be tuning in for, and all of that for me is very exciting. And one other thing is that during next week, I am hoping to interview one of the guys who works for the promotion company, who's helping me with the promotion for my own solo album, Organic. Okay, so I mentioned to them a little while ago, wouldn't it be a good idea, please, if I could, interview you and get you to explain directly to you what it is they're doing, what it is I'm paying for, basically. I'm quite interested myself to ask those questions. And it's going to be basic questions like, how does this promotion work? What does success look like? What are we trying to achieve here? Because even that is quite nuanced and interesting. And for the kind of money that I'm spending, how do they? First of all, how do they make a living? That's one important thing. They've got to have a certain, volume of artists coming through that they work with, because they're quite a small organisation. But also then one of the things that they did was to listen to my album in full and pick out the tracks that they thought would be the ones that would be most easily placed on playlists. So what were they looking for there? I'm very interested. So coming up in the next week or so, I hope will be a really good in-depth interview about the promotion side of Organic. And rather than being a kind of hypothetical, this is how we do promotion in general, it's quite nice to be able to say, yeah, what did you do with my album? I want to know that. So hopefully that'll be interesting to you as well as it is to me. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening. It is with great pleasure that I leave you with the 11th and last single from Do Not Feed the Foxes by Goldhawk Foxes, and it is called Love of My Life. Sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
I put it all into you, a special type of fool. You had the chatter and patter, and you could play the part right from the start. You had so many opinions, always in your feelings, lived in a dominion, gaslit to the ceiling, the perfect smile and explanation for every conversation. But you know me, and I know you, and I know how you do what you do. So long, see you goodbye, love of my life, broken heart again. You showed me how to cry, love of my life. can't take all these wounds weighed down by all this. I'm giving up soon. This isn't a show. I'm ready to go. This house ain't the home that it once was before. But you know me, and I know you, and I know how you do what you do. So long, see you goodbye, love of my life. Broken heart again, and you showed me how to cry, love of my life. But it's only pain. So long, see you goodbye, love of my life. Broken heart again, and you should